It's now time to return to Counsel Gray. You may remember that some time ago I published my reaction to this local lawyer in my What Else? Local Lawyers playlist. But I forgot to induct her into the local lawyers gang, so consider this video her reapplication. And when it comes to legal nuttiness, she nails it again. In this clip, she's going to tell us what Karmelo really meant when he talked to the cops, and your head will hurt as a result. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dredd to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dredd Show.
So this is about the upcoming trial of Karmelo Anthony for stabbing Austin Metcalf to death at a Frisco, Texas school track meet. We're going to skip ahead past some nutty material to get to the nuttiest material.
Okay, so what are the statements that we're talking about? We're talking about two statements. The first one was, touch me and see what happens. People are so divided, unfortunately, along racial and political lines. People are so divided about what this statement means. Touch me and see what happens. So standard English would tell you that this means one thing. Black English would tell you that this means something different. And here's the thing. Black people know exactly what this statement means. Unfortunately, white people seem not to understand what this statement means. And we'll also look at another statement a little bit further on. But Black people are not confused, right? Or certainly ones who relate to Black culture, right? Because there are some crazy ones out there. But Black people who relate to Black culture, understand Black culture, and have come up in Black culture, understand exactly what this phrase means. We understand exactly what Karmelo meant.
So the excuses begin. Get ready. This is going to be a wild ride.
When he said this. But it's going to be important that the jury understands what this statement means.
Yeah, good luck with that.
The other statement that we're going to talk about today is, he put his hands on me. Okay, the police report says that Karmelo spontaneously, without prompting, without being asked, told the police officers, and I put that with a, quotation marks and a wink, wink, right? But the police report says that he put his hands on me. And this is driving people crazy, because people are like, if someone touched you, that doesn't mean that you get to stab them. Well, we're going to see, what does this statement really mean? Because in Black English, in Black culture, this has a very particular meaning that Black people understand, and again, that white people don't understand. So we are going to take a look at what all of this means. So the crux of what we're breaking down today is, what is the difference between standard American English and Black American English? Now, I'm going to go through each of these and I'm going to break them down. I consider myself bilingual because I'm very proficient in both.
Well, I mean, I can speak Southern and I can also speak Californian, so I'm bilingual. Okay.
And I'm going to tell you how they're different and how they're the same. Okay? Okay, so before we even get into this, right, because I know that some people are going to say, well, it doesn't matter. This is America. People should be speaking standard English. Here's the deal. At the time of the altercation, the difference between the two Englishes had no impact. Either one of them should have stopped an aggressor.
Englishes. Okay.
So we're not talking about Karmelo or Austin having to translate and try to figure out what the other one was saying at the time of the altercation. Because at the time of the altercation, it was clear. Okay? Where it's going to get important is when the jury is deciding which claims are available. Okay, but at the time of altercation, so if in your mind, if you just said to yourself, well, it doesn't matter, this is America, people should be speaking standard English, blah, 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 let it go, because it doesn't matter. And I'm going to tell you why. No matter which dictionary you're using, either English should have stopped the aggressor, should have stopped Austin and Hunter, right? We're no longer saying that Austin did this by himself. Too much has come out, including Hunter's own words, where he said, we just made a simple mistake. Okay, so we're going to stop saying that Austin did this. We are going to say that Austin and Hunter did that, because now we know.
But that's not what Hunter said. Here's the interview in question.
Just one mistake from that dude, and this just took my brother.
He said, just one mistake from that dude. Remember, she is your top-shelf lawyer who knows how to examine evidence like a hawk and drill down to the truth like Adrian Monk. If you do a Google search on Hunter Metcalf made a simple mistake, you won't find anything. He never said it. Besides, even if he said that, well, Hunter was speaking North Dallas English, and in North Dallas English, they use the word we as singular. Yeah, her argument is going to get that stupid. Keep in mind that Karmelo used the singular pronoun he when describing the attack, and she doesn't seem too keen on pointing that out.
Either version, standard or Black English, should have stopped Hunter and Austin from doing what they were doing. Okay? However, here's where it will matter. The difference between the two Englishes will be significant come trial time. However, every group with a different mother tongue has contributed something to the lexicon, something to the diction, while also creating their own version of English that incorporates or combines with their native tongue.
Apparently, none of us are familiar with the term slang. We need Counsel Gray to lecture us on this. And all this time, I thought everyone in this country spoke exactly the same.
And I'm going to show you some examples. So in this, I'm going to play this clip for you. In this clip, this baby says, "Do it again, Uncle Steve." He says it in the way that standard English would understand it. However, he's got some serious Southern accent. And I love this because it shows how early language patterns are set.
Apparently, the thought that children tend to pick up the slang of their parents is a real profound idea to Counsel Gray.
Let me play this. Let me hope it plays. Uh-huh. Okay, so what this baby was saying, he was saying, "Do it again." And in this case, this is pretty straightforward. He's inviting Uncle Steve to push him again. So in that regard, he says it in a standard uncoded way, but you can also see that he's enjoying it. He's having a really good time.
I didn't know baby Sinclair was black. And yeah, he's having a good time, which is why he asked his parent to do it again. Okay.
Do it again, Uncle Steve. Do it again. Now, he has a very strong accent very early on. So this is what people are trying to equate what Karmelo Anthony said. They're trying to equate it to this.
No, we're not. Our brains are not made of granola, so we recognize the difference between being playfully pushed by your uncle in a shopping cart and getting pushed by an angry football player. Oh God, it hurts. It hurts.
Please do it again. I'm inviting you to do it again. But Black English knows that that's not what Karmelo was doing. So when I said earlier that there is no normal English, even English of the people in America that we think speak the best English, we think they have the best diction, right?
Because they do.
Right? In fact, what often they have is pronunciation and enunciation that we associate with proper English. But if you really listen and you dissect the grammar of standard English, or of people that you see and you think they're speaking standard English, oftentimes a grammarian would be cringing at what they're actually saying, but they sound a certain way that we associate with talking white, standard English. But if you listen to a lot of people talking white, their grammar is horrendous.
Oh, when whites do it, their grammar is horrendous. But I thought that these were all appropriate ways of speaking. There's a point where she doesn't even bother to hide her nitromethane injected bias.
Generally going to be associated with white people. We know that there are black people in Appalachia, but they have their own English. They use words and eat foods and do and describe things that nobody else will know what they're talking about, but they are speaking English. Then we know we've got Ebonics, we've got African American vernacular English, right? Black English. It is no question, and I say all of these things because it is no question that there are lots of different Englishes being spoken in.
Has she ever heard of the term dialect?
Okay, so here's another example of a Southern white conversation.
I just saw a dying chicken. I was walking around, I heard something howling in there, thought it was a wolf, and it was a dying chicken.
Now, I would say, right, she said, I saw a dang chicken. Now, I can tell you that in most Black households, using the word dang might get your tongue or your lips popped, right?
Oh yeah, because those parents are very strict. If there's one thing you can count on is that black children just don't cuss. They don't swear because their parents are so strict that if they even use the word dang, they're going to get a whooping. I mean, come on. Look, I don't want to bag on black kids, but you can't make them out to be angels. I mean, they get in trouble just like everybody else. And they can swear like sailors, like everybody else.
So then there's American Black English, African American Vernacular, AEVE. What is that?
I'll tell you what it is. It's a means of interpreting a black dude's words so that what made him sound guilty now makes him sound innocent. It never goes in the other direction. Nothing Karmelo said that sounded innocent will be interpreted as something sinister. No.
Black English is a culturally significant, right? A specific culturally significant combination of sound, word choice, meaning, regional dialects, and diction. It is not simply a lack of education. And I want to stress this because a lot of people think that Black English is the result of lack of education.
No, some educated people purposely use Black English to make themselves sound like they have no education for the street cred. Gee, I wonder who that would be.
All right, so let's look at the first statement. All of that was background to get to this point. Let's look at the first statement. Touch me and see what happens. This is what allegedly Karmelo said to Austin and Hunter. What does this mean? Black people know, white people listen up.
Yeah. If I go into a prison yard and approach any black person in there and tell them, hey, touch me and see what happens, they're not going to see that as a dare, a taunt. No.
Okay. Black English is the language of people who have to say everything without saying everything, right? Which is why it is so heavily coded, which is why a lot of words are omitted, right? Very quick and to the point, because there is danger, right? Historically, there has been danger in congregating. There has been danger in being deemed as talking white. There has been danger in sounding educated. So what happens in that case? You figure out the shortest possible way to say what you need to say to your brethren and keep moving. Touch me and see what happens. It means if A happens or happens again, then B, period. That's what it means. It means if A, then B. And A is the thing, and this is what Black English knows, that A is the thing you either just did or were about to do. It is what you say in response to an existing or perceived threat.
Yeah, the thing that Karmelo sensed was that Austin might touch him. No one's denying that.
It is not an invitation. It's not like the little boy in the shopping cart. Even the little boy in the
But you said the little boy in the shopping cart was speaking black English.
shopping cart was responding to his uncle having just pushed him when he said, do it again. But baked into this, if A happens or happens again, then B. Meaning, if the thing you either just did or were about to do happens or happens again, then B. Now, here's the thing. B doesn't even have to be a real thing.
They call that bluffing.
And I'm going to give you some examples. B, in fact, is often unknown and unspoken.
So it was a mirage. Yeah, a bluff. By effective, she means that Karmelo tried to scare Austin into not touching him by alluding to an unknown to Austin threat. Like, how does that let Karmelo off the hook? After all, he has to intend it to be scary, right? Why would it change Austin's handling of Karmelo if it wasn't at least an implied threat?
It's the consequence of what will happen if you do A. But because it is so effective at stopping A, you don't even need to do the work of figuring out what B is, which is why Karmelo said, and see what happens. He didn't know. Okay?
What do you mean he didn't know? He had a knife in the bag and was holding the knife, so I fail to see how B here was unknown to Karmelo. Was it unspoken? Sure, but part of Karmelo's problem was that he never conveyed to Austin what he would do if he was touched.
I'll give you a perfect example. I remember being a kid, and I was sitting at the table with two of my friends, and my mother and some other adults were sitting there. And we were eating our spaghetti or whatever it was. And when I was done, when my mother was facing her friends, I put my hands on the two sides of my plate and I started to lift it up from the table. And my mother, because she has eyes in the back of her head, I think all mothers have eyes in the back of their heads, she somehow saw that plate come up off the table in my hands. And she said, lick that plate. And that was all she said. Lick that plate. What she meant by that was, if you do what I think you're about to do, which is lick that plate, something is about to happen.
Right. She was directly implying that she was going to give you a whooping.
I understood perfectly what she meant, and I sat that plate down. She saw me formulating the idea to lick the plate, and all she said was, lick that plate. Got it. Point taken. Let me sit this plate down. She didn't have a consequence in mind.
If she pulled a belt out of the drawer and said that, I think she would have had a consequence in mind. And if you lifted that plate and she whooped the black out of your hiney, I think that would provide pretty solid evidence that she had a consequence in mind. And that is what happened with Karmelo. He had his hands on a knife, and then he used that knife to stab Austin. I think he had a consequence in mind.
She didn't need a consequence because she understood that just telling me the first half represented the second half too. Lick that plate. Now that's analogous to Karmelo saying, touch me.
Stupid, stupid, stupid.
It was in response to something that he already saw happening. It was in response to something he had already experienced. If anything, it was giving him not just a warning, but a second chance.
All the while tightening his grip on a hidden knife. Nice try, Gray, but the jury is going to see right through that argument.
Right? Like I let you get the first one, but touch me. As in, touch me again and see what happened. And again, the see what happens is an unknown, unspoken consequence. It doesn't even matter because to people who know what they're listening for, it's completely clear. Now, here's the thing. Let's say that people try to say, well, Hunter doesn't speak standard English. I mean, he doesn't speak Black English. He probably doesn't speak standard English either. If I heard him speak long enough, I could probably prove it. But anyway, if people say, well, Hunter and Austin don't speak Black English. They don't have to, and here's why. Because even taking the thing on face value, where he said, if you touch me, see what happens, the twins understood that there was going to be a consequence. And based on the context of the exchange, it was not going to be a happy one.
Now, wait a minute. Karmelo hid the knife. So how would they know what the consequence would be? Huh? Care to explain that? I mean, Karmelo was smaller. So if we take your theory that it was both boys who were confronting Karmelo, then how would they expect a big unhappy consequence from a skinny unarmed dude? They didn't know he had a knife.
Right? So no matter which English they're trying to use to interpret the statement, they had a warning. They had been advised that there was going to be a part 2 to that. Touch me and there's going to be a part 2. Okay? All right. So touch me and see what happens is never a random first strike taunt. It's a defensive boundary. It's a warning, not an invitation.
It's an invitation. It's a taunt. It's a dare. I suggest to Counsel Gray to try this sometime. You walk up to a pack of angry black women from the hood and tell them, touch me and see what happens. And see what happens. Do it. You know, and I know, that those women will beat the ghost out of you. You don't have the guts to do it because deep down you know that your argument is a total fraud. A warning without a consequence is called a bluff. Austin called his bluff and paid the ultimate price, but that doesn't absolve Karmelo of what happened. If you bluff and you end up stabbing someone to death because someone called you on it, you're still liable for the crime. You don't get to walk around Jack Doherty style and expect the law to let you skate by. This is a bad misconception about the law that a lot of people like Counsel Gray doesn't get. Warning someone doesn't do squat for you self-defense wise. It doesn't absolve you of what you did. Karmelo either reasonably feared serious bodily injury or he didn't. We'll find out during the trial.
And when I say it's never a first strike taunt, it's always in response to something, right? But let's say it was in response to nothing. Let's say a stranger just approached you out of nowhere and said, touch me and see what happens. You would, first of all, if that person didn't end up in a 72-hour hold for being crazy.
If it was just a warning and no consequence in mind, why would it be so crazy?
You would be like, no thanks, I'm good. Like, I don't know you. I'm gonna keep going about my business. Like, we're not, like, who are you again, right? Anywho, it's never a first strike. Okay. So I want to play a different example for you. And some of you guys may have seen this movie. And this is a little bit of an extreme example, but it's a little bit humorous. But this guy, you might recognize that's Ice Cube in the front. And this guy has a gun to Ice Cube's head. And Ice Cube keeps mouthing off. He keeps saying something. And the guy behind him with the gun to his head is going to respond to the fact that Ice Cube keeps saying something.
I ain't got no win. Shut the fuck. Shut. No. Oh shit. Say it again. Say something else. Oh. Say something else. Say something else, nigga. Nobody say another motherfucking word, and this shit is over.
Okay, so we saw Ice Cube keep trying to talk, and the guy was like, be quiet, say something else, and this is going to escalate. Say something else, and there's going to be a part B to this.
Quiz time. Part B is likely to be A, getting shot, or B, I have no idea, because I'm one of Counsel Gray's subscribers, and I'm dumber than a bag of granite.
Right? He was not out of nowhere saying, stop talking. He was responding to the fact that Ice Cube he kept talking. And he said, say another word, right? If you say anything else, this shit is over. There's going to be a part 2 to this, right? So this is Black English. We understand this. This is not an invitation for Ice Cube to keep talking. In fact, this is an invitation for him to be quiet and stop doing what he was doing.
Yeah, Counsel Gray, it's not an invitation because he has the gun out and is pointing it at his head. If the man with the gun was much smaller, had a handgun concealed and said this, it would be different. You honestly can't see the difference?
Oh God, what a charade.
If Karmelo pulled out the knife, then yeah, That changes things. At that point, it would become a warning because Austin would realize that his life would be in danger if he pressed on. But Karmelo hid the knife, presenting himself as not a threat, even though he knew he was. He knew that Austin was bigger. He knew that Austin wouldn't see him as a threat because Austin didn't know he had a knife. Try as you might, touch me and see what happens is not a de-escalation tactic. How many of you think that if a cop said this to a black suspect, she'd stick to this script?
Okay, so here's the second statement. He put his hands on me. What does this mean? And this one is a little bit trickier
Yeah, I bet.
because people are hearing this and interpreting it as Austin and Hunter touched him. They gently shoved him. That is not what he put his hands on me means. Black English understands this, which is why you've got to get a linguist who can speak to the contours of Black English to a jury.
A witness cannot testify what some other person meant. If Karmelo wants to explain what he meant, he'll have to take the stand. And it won't even matter. Austin either roughed him up or he didn't. There were plenty of witnesses. They will testify. This cockamamie linguistic drivel is inconsequential.
He put his hands on me. This is what was in the police report. What does this mean? What do Black people know about this statement that others seem not to know? Okay. So Black English is the language of people who had to minimize hard things to survive and preserve dignity. Now, let me show you how that big sentence manifests.
All you are saying is that they have too much pride to admit when they've had their asses whooped, which is pretty much every race. I don't know of many races that brag about their ass kickings.
He put his hands on me. When we know what it means when you say someone put their hands on someone else, this is not a touch. This is not a love tap. It doesn't mean he didn't put anything. It means he did something far more aggressive. And the reason that Black people use, he put his hands on me, which again has nothing to do with the time of the altercation. It has to do with what Karmelo said to the police officer after the altercation. It has to do with what white people are harping on, that this was he put his hands on you. You mean he touched you? No.
Yes. Karmelo told the cop he put his hands on me. I told him not to. But what did Karmelo tell Austin not to do? Let's go back. Oh yeah, touch me and see what happens.
Oh, God!
Because Black culture and language minimizes traumatic events. Let me give you some examples. First of all, we're not the only ones who do it. So why people are totally confused, I don't know.
Translation. She couldn't find any examples of Black people to support her argument. All she could find was a movie with white people in it.
Let's hear what Matt McConaughey had to say about someone laying their hands on his wife.
While you are getting in the freezer, and you will make that transaction if you want to get out of the freezer. It is 25 below zero in there, so I assume you'll last about an hour. That said, I wouldn't fuck about because frostbite is very expensive on the fingers and toes, so I would type as quickly as possible while you have the use of them. You can then deal with the next consequence of your short-sightedness. As stated, I am not emotional about the money, but I am emotional about the fact that someone laid their hands on my wife. My wife!
So Matt McConaughey said, or whoever his character was, said, someone laid their hands on my wife, right? No amount of retribution or whatever he said. But what I want you to remember is that they flashed to the face of his wife. Did that look like someone just touched her? This is what he said when he said laid his hands on. It's a euphemism.
But where's the Black English? These are white people. Your whole point to the jury was to show that Black English is different. So you're using white people speaking it as an example?
It's minimizing right? It's using language to minimize what actually happened. So when Carmelo Anthony said he put his hands on me, he was not talking about a love tap. He was not talking about grabbing his arm, right? We would like to say, right, that this kid has a hair trigger reaction and he overreacted and all this kind of stuff. But when you hear it in the context of Black English, he put his hands on me and I told him not to, right? He's telling you right there that he warned him. He's being his own dictionary right there. Okay, so phrases like these that are commonly used in Black English, right? They minimize, euphemize, and encode traumatic scenarios. When someone says, oh, he put hands on him, what he's talking about is that kid got his ass whooped, okay? When someone says, oh, they got into it, that means that it escalated, right? That means that they had a fight. That means that there was something significant enough that happened that I need to tell you about it. Another one, when you hear, oh, that boy got hands, what they're really talking about is he will beat you up. He's an excellent fighter. But we reduce it to that boy got hands, okay? He caught a fade. Now, we don't know who knows what a fade is? I mean,
You don't know what a fade is? I thought that you were fluent in Black English.
I know what it means when you catch a fade, but the source of the word fade, I don't know. But there's a lot of words being spoken in that one sentence, he caught a fade. Black people know what that means. He caught a fade. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 words that represents a whole page of information.
A whole page of information in those 4 words. Wow, that's a pretty profound statement.
Black people also know what it means when you say, I was touched. I was touched. We know what that means. That means I was molested, I was raped, I was SA, I was violated. I think I'm not supposed to say those words on YouTube. We'll see.
Oh, so what was Karmelo warning Austin about when he said, touch me and see what happens? You just screwed Karmelo over. Because if it is shown that all Austin did was try to push him out of the tent area and not try to molest or sexually assault him, then Karmelo didn't give him any warning at all. So the proper translation of what went under the tent was this:
try to sexually assault me and see what happens.
Well, I have no interest in forcing sex on you, but I do want you out of this tent area, so get out. Stab, stab, stab.
I warned him not to force sex on me.
Is that how it went, Counsel Gray? Oh, touch means something different all of a sudden.
The other thing you may hear is, oh, he went home. He went home to be with the Lord. He got killed. He didn't make it. He died, right? Whatever it means. These are all ways that Black English shortens a lot of language and a lot of information into a few short words.
How does translating he got killed into he went home shorten the language? Why not say he died? That's even shorter.
So Black English repackages trauma for survival. So when he says he put his hands on me, he's minimizing, he's repackaging a traumatic experience. And it's not that he was having that exact thought at the moment, right? This is a cultural norm. This is what Black people do without being told to do it or reminded to do it. We constantly minimize our trauma, okay? And why do we do that? Because in Black communities, especially those shaped by generational poverty, and they are not all, even though we are all connected to the Black culture, right? State violence, systemic exclusion, street violence. There is a long-standing cultural practice of reframing trauma with coded language, with humor, with understatement, etc. So when he says he put his hands on me, he is minimizing a trauma. He is condensing a lot of words into one small phrase. Okay, so these are the characteristics of Black English, right? Characteristic of Black English is to minimize, to euphemize, to humorize, to understate, etc. It's just, it's a part of the culture.
I'm not aware of any language that doesn't do this. Euphemisms, minimization, slang, all languages do this. And I'm sorry, But I would like to get some citations on this black people minimize hardship claim. Who are the ones that cry, police brutality, every time a pair of handcuffs are slapped on them? Who cries, I can't breathe, when they're shoved into the back of a patrol car? The English and the Scottish, on the other hand, put all other languages to shame when it comes to minimizing, euphemizing, and humorizing hardship. They are the masters of understatement. Have you ever heard a Scot or Englishman talk about the horrors of war? Well, yes, I'm telling you that riding around in a steel tank in the desert was downright uncomfortable. And all those bodies on the battlefield were positively dreary. Want a real example? During World War I, a British admiral witnessed two of his battleships blow up. His comment, there seems to be something wrong with our bloody ships today. Back in 1982, volcanic ash shut down all 4 engines on a 747. The British pilot got on the intercom and told the passengers, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We have a small problem. All 4 engines have stopped. We are doing our darndest to get them going again. I trust you are not in too much distress. They were able to refire the engines and landed safely, by the way. Where do you think the phrase, keep calm and carry on, comes from? It's from the British, as they faced an invasion by the Germans in World War II. Didn't you notice the crown? And yes, this British understatement is well discussed and researched.
Another example, if someone says, oh, he put tips on her. Well, they're talking about fingertips, right? He put fingertips. But what that means is if you say to somebody, oh, that kid put tips on you, what you're saying is that kid kicked your, right? Your, right? He didn't literally just touch you with his fingertips. He wore you out.
And if white people say he got his butt kicked, that doesn't mean that these dudes went out, picked up their feet, and then kicked him actually physically in the butt. It's a euphemism. It means they beat the living crap out of him. Oh, and by the way, the crap didn't actually come out of the person. That's hyperbole. I mean, seriously?
So why do Black people minimize trauma? It's because it's too difficult to deal with. If you had to actually use the words to describe what you were feeling, what had happened, it would be too difficult. The other thing is that it minimizes the systemic disappointment of trauma to Black people going unheeded. It minimizes the disappointment that we feel when bad things that happen to us don't get responded to. So what do? You minimize it, you downplay it. Because if you stayed in a perpetual place of thinking of what happened to you, it would drive you crazy. And Black people are very mentally resilient. And all of this is part of why. Okay? The other thing is that it preserves your dignity. I was touched. My husband put hands on me, right? You're able to preserve dignity and tell a big story. It also allows you to not be vulnerable. Now, here is the sort of flip side of this. It allows you to not be vulnerable, but that requires a little bit of a puffing up of the chest, right? And there may be some of that in this story, right? Both of these boys, 17-year-olds with incomplete minds, they were both puffing up, trying not to be vulnerable, trying to save face maybe, right? There was some of all of that going on.
How do you know that that was true with Austin and Hunter, huh? What's your evidence of that?
Okay, so from the outside, it might sound like Black language is playing down violence and trauma.
Well, I mean, that's what you're saying.
But it's not that. And Black people didn't invent it, right? What's really going on is that Black language does what all resilient cultures do. They find language to survive what should never have been normalized in the first place.
All cultures are resilient. I mean, every culture has undergone trauma. You don't think it was rough being invaded by the Vikings?
Okay, so if you're in a place where it has been normalized that you are subject to violence, trauma, consistently, repeatedly, what do? You minimize it. You come up with code words for it. You pretend like it's not happening. You turn it into jokes. Ever wonder why Black people are so funny? It's a way of dealing with trauma, right? Euphemism is not denial, it's dignity. Minimizing pain is not denying, it's preserving your dignity. Okay, so I want to give you some examples, right? This is another version of the type of trauma bonding that happens, right? Now, this is sort of the flip side of cultural language, that it holds within it everything that is great about a culture and everything that is not so great about a culture, right? So every Black person has heard this. And if you don't believe me, ask any Black person you know. They have heard some adult say to them when they were a kid, keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about.
Who amongst us has not heard this? I mean, seriously? I mean, only Black parents say this? I heard this constantly all the time. Last time I looked, my parents weren't Black. But this is a perfect example of how she feels that every experience that she had when she was a kid was unique to Black culture. No, I'm sorry. Telling somebody, keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about, has been uttered by parents of every race.
What that is saying is minimize the pain that you are feeling. This is nothing. This is not a big deal. Stop whining. In the grand scheme of things, toddler, right? In the grand scheme of things, fifth grader, someone, breaking your pencil in half or pushing you off, the bike or something, this is not a big deal. But guess what? It is a big deal. And we know this now. Okay. This is our culture is letting go of this type of stuff, right? This type of calling toddlers little man. Hey, little man. No, let him be a boy, right? Don't tell him to stop crying.
I thought you weren't supposed to call them boys.
But what they're really saying behind the anger of what you're not going to do is, what they're really saying is, please let me live. Let me breathe. Please don't violate my space. Don't violate.
Yeah, I bet. I bet that's exactly what they're saying. Okay. They don't want you to trigger your historical pain.
My life. Stop triggering my historical pain and trauma. Okay, so all of that is baked into language. But like I said, Black people did not invent it. This is going to be critical for a jury to understand.
Yeah, well, good luck. Yeah, as soon as you get up in front of the jury and you tell them, now keep in mind, in Black culture, we have this saying, keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about. And I know everybody here on the jury has never heard that before. That jury is going to look at you like, what? Okay.
So I think I've made my case for both statements. Touch me and see what happens. And he put his hands on me. Touch me and see what happens is the if A happens again, then there's going to be a part 2, then B, right? It's not an invitation. It's not a provocation. It's a warning. It's a boundary that Austin and possibly Hunter immediately disregarded, right? This kid was not trying to escalate. He was trying to de-escalate. This was not a provocation. This was an attempt to de-escalate. So I've made my case about that one.
You sure have, which is why we have inducted you into the Local Lawyers gang.
With this bandana, I welcome you to the game.
Like my video and subscribe to my channel.